Hello everyone. I hope you all are fine by the grace of Almighty. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Before stating my video, I request to all my new viewers to subscribe my channel. Today my video is about food poisoning and its prevention. Food poisoning is an illness caused by eating harmful or contaminated food. The food poisoning is a type of foodborne illness, is a sickness people get from something they ate or drank. The causes are germs or other harmful things in the food or beverage. Symptoms of food poisoning often include upset stomach, diarrhea, and vomiting. Food which can cause food poisoning may appear harmless, like the color, taste, and appearance are normal, and there is no evidence of spoilage. If food spoilage occurs, the food is unpalatable because the color, taste, and appearance have been changed, although the food may be completely harmless. There are 3 types of food poisoning. 1. Chemical. 2. Biological. 3. Bacterial. Now let's start with chemical food poisoning. This is caused by the presence of toxic chemicals in food. A small proportion, less than 1% of the food poisoning in the UK is caused by chemical poisons. Chemicals used in agriculture or industry may occasionally get into foods in error. Poisoning may also be caused by accumulation of certain metal, for example lead, mercury, and cadmium in the body. High levels of mercury and cadmium have been found in fish taken from waters polluted by industrial waste. Cases of lead poisoning have arisen as a result of drinking water that has passed through lead pipes. In the fish and shellfish living in the bay. Outbreaks of organic mercury poisoning have also occurred in Iraq and Guatemala, where farmers who had received grain seeds treated with a mercury fungicide ate the seeds instead of planting them. Heavy metals such as lead, zinc, cadmium, and copper may reach foods from containers. For example, if acid foods are stored in galvanized containers, zinc poisoning can result. Next type of food poisoning is biological food poisoning. Biological food poisoning is caused by eating foods containing naturally occurring poisons. There are many examples of this type of poisoning, including poisonous mushrooms. There are species of poisonous mushrooms such as Amanita phalloides and A. virosa, which have caused illness and in some cases death. These mushrooms are very similar in appearance to the edible variety and may easily be eaten by mistake. Deadly nightshade. This is a bushy plant which grows throughout Europe and Asia. All parts of the plant contain the drug belladonna, which is used in medicine to relieve illnesses such as asthma, bronchitis, and heart disease. However, the drug may be lethal if taken in large doses, and children have been poisoned by eating the berries of the plant. Potatoes. Potatoes are also members of the nightshade family, and green potatoes contain a substance called solanine which causes illness or even death if eaten in large quantities. Now let me tell you about the 3rd type of food poisoning. Bacterial poisoning in food. Bacterial food poisoning is the most common cause of food poisoning, and stringent hygiene precautions must be taken to prevent outbreaks of this type of illness. Most food poisoning incidents occur due to unhygienic practices, making them preventable. Since the Second World War, there has been a notable increase in the number of recorded incidents of food poisoning. In the 1960s in England and Wales, between 4,000 and 5,000 cases of food poisoning were notified annually. This number steadily increased throughout the 1970s and early 1980s, showing a dramatic increase in the latter part of the 1980s. Figures on the number of cases of bacterial food poisoning occurring annually are available from various sources. The increase in the number of cases in recent years is thought to be due to several factors. Some of these factors include an increase in the number of meals eaten away from home, such as in canteens and restaurants. If a single food in a catering establishment becomes contaminated with food poisoning bacteria, large numbers of people may be affected. Another factor is the increase in the consumption of poultry. A significant proportion of bacterial food poisoning is due to chickens contaminated with salmonella. Additionally, there has been an increase in intensive farming, which has resulted in more foods being contaminated with food poisoning bacteria, as the animals are reared in close quarters with one another. The bacteria most frequently responsible for food poisoning are organisms of the Salmonella group, Clostridium perfringens, Staphylococcus aureus, Bacillus cereus, and Campylobacter jejuni. There are 3 main types of bacterial food poisoning. The first is the infective type, which is caused by eating food containing a large number of living bacteria. After being eaten, the bacteria establish themselves in the alimentary canal, and when they die, they release an endotoxin, for example, salmonella poisoning. The second type is the toxin type, which is caused by eating food containing an exotoxin. The toxin is released into the food while the bacteria are growing and multiplying in the food. The bacteria themselves may be dead when the food is eaten, for example, staphylococcal poisoning. The third type is also caused by a toxin. The toxin is not produced in the food but is released into the intestines after the bacteria have been eaten, and while they are growing in the intestinal tract, for example, Clostridium perfringens poisoning. The incubation period, which is the time between the contaminated food being eaten and the occurrence of the first symptoms, is longer for the infective type of food poisoning than the toxin type. Now, let me explain the bacterial food poisoning with some bacterial examples. Salmonella. Salmonella are aerobic bacilli which do not form spores. They cause an infective type of illness, and in healthy persons, about 1 million living organisms need to be ingested to cause food poisoning. The organisms most frequently responsible for outbreaks are S. typhimurium and S. enteritis, but there are about 2,000 different types of Salmonella. Sometimes the organism is named after the place where it was first recognized as the causative agent of food poisoning. Examples of such organisms are S. Newport and S. Dublin. Illness caused by Salmonella. Incubation period 12-36 hours. Symptoms: abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, headache, fever. Duration of illness 1-8 days, sometimes as long as 14 days. Source of Salmonella are found in the intestines of man and many animals, and consequently are excreted in the feces. There are 2 types of human carriers. 1. Healthy carriers, symptomless excretors. These people carry the organism in their intestines and excrete it in their feces, but they do not suffer any symptoms of the illness. 1. Convalescent carriers. These are people who continue to excrete the organism after they have recovered from the illness. Some species of Salmonella may be excreted for months or even years, while others are excreted for only a few weeks. Means of spread to food: Salmonella may be spread to foods by insect pests, vermin, and domestic pets. Occasionally, human carriers contaminate foods, particularly if they do not wash their hands after using the toilet. Salmonella in animal feeding stuffs, especially in imported fish meal, can introduce infection into farm animals. Chickens reared under battery conditions are more likely to be infected with Salmonella than free-range hens, since the birds are kept close together and cross-infection readily occurs between one bird and another. One of the most common methods of spread of Salmonella is by cross-contamination from raw meat and poultry to cooked foods during handling and preparation in the kitchen. Foods commonly associated with outbreaks are: the foods most frequently responsible for Salmonella poisoning are eggs and products containing eggs, especially where the eggs are raw, for example mayonnaise, or only lightly cooked. Poultry, including cold and reheated chicken and turkey, has also been responsible for many outbreaks. Other high-risk foods include meat and meat products, for example meat pies, and cream. Prevention. Salmonella are readily killed by heat, and they do not produce heat-resistant spores or toxins. In order to reduce the risk of Salmonella poisoning, food handlers should take the following precautions. 1. Frozen meat and poultry should be thawed thoroughly before cooking. 1. Food should be cooked thoroughly. Eggs in particular should be boiled adequately. 2. Dishes containing raw or lightly cooked eggs should be avoided, particularly for susceptible groups such as pregnant women, young children, and the elderly. 3. Dishes containing raw or lightly cooked eggs should be avoided, particularly for susceptible groups such as young children and the elderly. Pasteurized egg, frozen or dried, should be used in place of shell eggs, both in domestic cooking and catering. 4. Raw and cooked meat should be stored separately. Juices from raw meat must not be allowed to drip onto cooked meats. 5. Separate knives, chopping boards, meat slicers, etc. should be used for raw and cooked meats and poultry. 6. Foods likely to cause Salmonella poisoning should be stored in a refrigerator. This includes raw eggs, which should be consumed within 3 weeks of being laid. I hope you understand today's topic on food poisoning. Do let me know about your feedback. Food poisoning is a trip to the courtroom. Avoid food contamination. Avoid future frustration. Thank you for watching my video. Do subscribe my channel. Until next time, take care of your family and friends, and remember me in your prayers. Goodbye.